Partners in Ministry, a presentation of Josiah White's Quakerdale Foundation, dedicated to growing ministry support networks, introducing people to a cause that connects with their heart, bringing hope and encouragement to our communities as we seek together to serve as Christ served.
Welcome to Partners in Ministry. My name is Dan Smith, and today I'll be talking with Felicia Carter. Felicia is the founder and executive director of the Center of Attention Community Resource Center in Waterloo, Iowa. In this interview, we're going to talk about grief, what it is, when it can happen, how we can grieve well, and more. Welcome, Felicia, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Dan.
Now, sooner or later, we're all going to experience grief. It's inevitable, but I don't think many of us kind of really know just what grief is. How would you describe grief to somebody?
I would describe grief as a natural process, a natural response to a death or loss.
All right. And what are some typical times that we can experience grief?
A lot of times it's probably the death of a loved one or losing a pet or a friendship or maybe knowing that you have to move on from a particular relationship or something that you do that is harmful to your well-being, and I would say holistically well-being, psychological, mental, physical well-being.
Sure. Can you give us some examples of when you know that you've experienced it or went through grief yourself personally?
Dan, I just went through the loss of an ex-husband who was the father of my 4 children, who was a great man, who was a great friend, who was a great father. And and that was just here recently. And recently, and then before that, I had to let go, close the door to some relationships that wasn't supportive or encouraging to me as an individual. And so same process, just a different, situation. So I believe grief can happen along any spectrum, any time of your life, expected, unexpected. Sometimes you have to, close the door, be the one to, start that grief process. So it can happen anytime in our lives.
Or which brings out the point that you said it's natural. It should not surprise us when we find ourselves feeling this grief, this anxiety, this sense of immense loss. I remember how surprised I was when our last child, we took him off to college and it came back to the house. And all of a sudden, I just started weeping bitterly out of nowhere. I thought, what in the world is going on? And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, I'm actually grieving the fact that I don't have kids in my home anymore. They're all grown up and gone. And I was not expecting that. That would really surprise me. But I think
Hmm.
it tied into the fact that there was a real loss that I was experiencing that I was never going to get that again because those
Yeah.
kids have gone just as if someone had passed away.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, and because it's natural, obviously we need to learn how to deal with it. So, how can we grieve well? What are some of the things that we need to do to make sure that we are grieving well and not just putting it in a closet because that doesn't work. I've tried that.
Yeah. What I have been trying to do is feel those emotions, be present in every emotion that I am feeling. If it's sad, if it's disbelief, if it's um, laughing, because that's the thing, like remembering some of the good times and some of the memories that was made, you know, in a moment you can think about the memories and have a laugh, and then you can, go to sobbing, like you said earlier. And so it's like I've just tried to embrace what I'm feeling and talk about it, you know, um, not only am I grieving, but my kids are grieving as well. And so I'm trying to be, present for them and ask them, is there anything that you want to talk about? You know, just so that way they can feel what they need to feel and be comfortable and know that, other people are concerned and going along with them on that journey. So I just believe that it's just about feeling and talking about it and not stuffing. Um, and the other day when I dropped my daughter back off in Philadelphia, I, from Cedar Rapids to Waterloo, I had a conversation. It was like I started experiencing anger, you
Mm,
know, and and I had a conversation, in the car with, their father, and I was telling him how mad I was at him for leaving at such an early age. I knew that wasn't going to bring him back, but I felt safe to share that. And then I also thanked him like for being such a good father. And, I said some other stuff, and apologize for some of the things that I may have said to him, after the divorce up until now, that wasn't really godlike. And so it was like I went from apologizing to thanking to telling him that I was angry and, you know, replaying why didn't, just questions and just comments. And it really helped me to feel better for that moment.
sure. So it is a natural process. It has a tendency to bring up a lot of it's not an isolated event. It's going to bring up a lot of other things that you've been may have or may not have processed well. It sounds like
Yes.
there's an expression of what you're feeling that needs to happen sometimes by yourself, sometimes with
Mhm.
others. It sounds like that you're
Yep.
saying. Um, and that one of the important things that are important, especially those of us that are parents or as we get older, is sounds like transparency. Uh, it, it,
Yes.
it's good to let for other people to see that we're grieving,
Yes.
so that
Yes.
we can kind of learn or that we can kind of share. Have you ever been in one of those situations where you're kind of grieving, and the last thing that you needed was for somebody to give you this platitude about it's all going to be all right, or there's going to be. Did you ever feel like that was not doing much good?
Yes, I felt like that wasn't doing any good, and so, I had a friend that didn't reach out, and they said that they wanted to give me space, and I was like, "Until I say I need space, call me and see how I'm doing." And it was like and I shared with them, "I trust you," and I needed somebody
Mhm.
once everybody left for the day, I needed to talk to somebody that I could trust, that I could say some things that nobody else, you know, um, I didn't want nobody else to know.
Sure.
And so it's like, allow me to tell you how I want your support because I don't want to hear it'll be okay because I know it'll be okay, but right now it don't feel okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many times, what we're looking for when we're inviting somebody into the grieving process that we're going through is not necessarily an advice giver or a counselor. It's just being there so that I can get out what's going on inside of me. I just a lot of
Yes.
times it's about hearing ourselves
Yes.
on that. Um, so it looks like a part of grief is by ourselves and part of grief is with somebody else. It's kind of a mixture of both. That it's not just one or the other. Is that true? Is that how you would see it?
You know, I I do believe it's that way, and in our culture, the Black culture, and some of the Black cultures, some of the Black families, from the next day to up until the funeral, we have a lot of people coming in and bringing food and sitting around and sharing, laughs. One of the things that I didn't like that was asked was, "What happened?" It was like, because it seemed like every time they asked that question, it was like, you know, the it just pierced the soul, just even because it's like it don't matter what happened. What matter is that you were there. And so for my kids' sake, we extended our doors open, but there was times when some of those people stayed longer than we wanted them to, or I wanted them to, but because I had 4 grown children, back in my home, it was like I accepted it. It was like they may not have left until 11 or midnight, and it was like I accepted it because I didn't know if my kids needed those people to be around, and so I accepted it. And that's where I would have loved to have those friends call so I could have like veered off and expressed, this company is staying too long. But I do believe that there's times when you need to be by yourself, so you can get the thoughts, you can have those thoughts. And then there's times when, yes, it's important to have others. Like my youngest son is here, lives with me. And so every day I get to ask him, do you want to talk about anything?
Mm.
And giving him the opportunity to say yes or no. Asking him, am I asking too often or too much how you're feeling? Because I want to be connected. You want to see if it's okay to ask those questions or to be there. Do you need a moment by yourself? Or do you want, and I pretty much allow them to let me know. Like yesterday, my middle son came over and cooked breakfast. And so I knew he must have needed some connection. And then we all stayed around and watched the football game. And then I left and went to Walmart because I needed a little time to myself. It's like, trying to get back to the regular routine. Um, because I'm always around people in the field that I work in. And when I go home, that's like my sanctuary.
Sure.
And so it was like I just needed a little time yesterday just to be by myself. So I went to Walmart and was just able to like think about what has happened in the last 15 days and how I'm going to move forward without this person in my life.
Sure, sure. I noticed that some degrees in you're kind of bringing here. We got a 15-day period where you're still processing, you're still working through some things. My mom passed away in 1997, and there are still moments where uh, I almost have to re-grieve.
Yeah.
Things will bring it out. Are you have you experienced that before too? And if so, what are some common things that we should be aware of that this may trigger that again?
So my mom died December 8th of 2019. And that year we didn't have a Christmas. There was not one present under the tree, but we did hold each other and we was there for one another. I mean, her funeral was December 15th. So there was no way. And it gave me a different perspective. And so around the time of Christmas coming, Thanksgiving, the holidays, birthdays, just sometimes just days when you remember, oh, we went for a drive and watched and saw the pretty leaves. So just moments of those traditionals and then the things that you created to be a memory. Um, for me, I just like to talk about, those times. And like you said, it doesn't matter a day, a minute, something might trigger you. I even find myself acting like my mom. And my kids tell me that, I dress like her now. Like when I go to get the mail, I might put on a striped hat and a polka dot jacket and I'm just going to the mailbox. And so I find myself, acting like her and saying things. And so when those things happen, it's like I gravitate to it, because it's like I need a balance of, mourning and memories that are good.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So one of the things we should not be surprised about, and in some ways we should kind of prepare ourselves, is that um, special things like birth dates, holidays, um, times where that person was central to what was going on. We should be aware it's probably going to come back again, and maybe even be proactive. I know one of the things that we started doing since grandparents and so forth are starting to pass away is that one of the topics that we have around Christmas time. So we'll say, this is fifth Christmas, whatever, without grandma. What are some of the fun things that you guys remember about grandma? In other words, be proactive about it. Give
Yeah.
people an opportunity to anticipate. We're going to have a time to talk about these people that aren't here anymore, um,
Yeah.
so that we can not only not forget, but I think it's also part of the grieving process to realize we're gonna hit you head on. You're not gonna surprise me.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know, with birthday, there was a while where I actually still wrote birthday cards to my mom. I never mailed them, but it was just the idea of sitting down in preparation of,
Oh,
of writing to her. So I think there's a lot of things like that that we can do that just kind of help us not forget and re establish the importance of what that relationship was, and it's okay. And to not fool ourselves. I like checklists. Well, one of the things you can't put on the checklist is grieving done. Uh, I don't think it ever really goes away, does it?
no. And I remember, early as 10 years old when my father's grandmother passed. And at the time I was scared of funerals, but I still remember, and my mom taught me at an early age that everybody has a time to go. And so that helps to know that their time, you know, um was this long, and just to think about the good stuff that happened, the memories, um so but it never, I think about, and my grandmother was my Sunday school teacher. And so I still remember, I still think about some of those great lessons she taught us in Sunday school.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, Felicia, I just really want to thank you for your time this morning to just begin to start that process of grieving. If somebody really would like to learn more about grieving, do you is the center available for somebody to call and get a hold of you, or what would be your recommendation there?
Yes, actually, I am seeing a grief counselor right now, so I would love to share that information with anybody that needs, an extra support, extra ear. Um, so they can give me a call at 319-232-6081 or 319-464-4444.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Felicia. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for joining me today. Felicia's contact information, she just gave it, but it's also on the screen here. Feel free to give her a call if you'd like to talk a little bit more about grief, or if you'd like to learn more about the Center of Attention Community Resource Center. You can also find the contact information in the show notes on the episode on our website, or you can find it in the description of this YouTube video. So again, thank you, Felicia. Thank you guys for joining me. And until next time, let's get out there and serve as Christ serves.
This has been a presentation of Partners in Ministry, a podcast of Josiah White's Quakerdale Foundation. To learn more and see the show notes for this and other episodes, visit our website. To stay informed of up and coming broadcasts, subscribe to our e-newsletter. To invest in our mission, donate today.